So you can start now, Rian. Okay, so welcome everyone to workshop number 2. Today I'm going to be going over arrays and functions, and I'm going to be going over. And once I finish those 2 topics, I'm going to do this demo, which is just a simple matching game, right? It tells you the flips, right, and then you display an emoji. I'm later on will expand this same project and make it pretty harder and use classes and stuff like that. But for now, I'm going to make it extremely simple. I'm not even going to use constraints or anything for this. I'm not going to mess with it till I start going over UI kit. So okay, to begin, let me open up. I totally lost the one playground thing. Where did I put it, Ian? Let me.
The playground? I think it should be in your browser, right?
I lost my playground.
Oh,
I think I closed it. That's why I closed it. Open up. I have it right here. Oh no, I did it actually. All right, so I'm going to go over loops. Does everyone here know what? Does anyone here know what loop is, or does anyone need a? Ivan, how do you feel with loops, arrays, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I have those loops in arrays at a I did it for CSS5 and it's CIS 17A.
Okay, that's great. So basically, well, before I explain loops, I'll go over arrays first. An array is just basically a list of things that you want to store. In some cases, a lot of times you want to save data. For example, Facebook saves your post. Or you can even, if you want to have like a list of names, you can also have a list of names. The way you declare an array is just like this. Var, you use the variable. You give it a name, and you make it equal to 2 brackets, the type, and 2 parentheses. This is basically declaring an empty array. And of course, there's 2 in Swift. There's always a Swift way of doing things. And then there's another way of declaring an array, which is just you make the type an array, right? And you just make it empty. The 2 brackets. These are basically the exact same thing. Does anyone feel good with this? And basically Swift, I use the Swift programming language book. Just an array stores values of the same type in an ordered list, right? So everything's pretty much everything is stored in the way you put it in. And I talked about creating an empty array, right? And this I won't go over yet. Okay. So now that we went over arrays, right? This is how you declare an empty array. You can also add stuff to your empty arrays. So if you want to add, let's say, a number to this, all you have to do is call lecture numbers, right? This variable right here, and put append, right? And there's different methods that you can use, right? This one takes in a sequence, right? So if you want to pass in, you can also pass in an array, right? An array is a sequence. Sequence is basically a protocol, which I won't go over yet. But for now, all you have to know is that this method right here takes in 1 element of type end, right? So if you put 2, right, and then we go right here, and then we print lecture numbers, and then it prints 1 and 2. You're also able to print arrays. You're gonna print basically everything in Swift. So even UI related stuff. But this is how you would print an array. As you can see, it's all in the same order that I added it in, right? So we appended the number 1, and then we appended the number 2. And then when we print an array, we did 1 and 2, right? And to access the variables, right, you can, this is very similar to C and C++. You would do something like this. And that should give you printout print out 1, and print out 2. Right, this is very C. But of course, there's a swifter way of doing it, which is if you want to get the first variable, right? You first. No. Now, don't worry about this little exclamation mark yet. I'll go over it in another I'll probably go over it in the next workshop. We'll go over optionals. But for now, you want to unwrap that optional. Where is it? I lost myself. Where did I put it? You want to unwrap the optional. Where did I put it? I think I lost it. Who joined? Oh, Mario. I think Mario Reen is already recording the lecture, I believe. But here you implicitly unwrap the optional, and then if we print up to here, it prints the first element, right? And a lot of times this is good because you don't know if there's an element in this array, right? And then this basically checks if there's an element, and it returns nil if it's not. But I'm not going to go over that yet. Now, does everyone feel comfortable regarding arrays? An array is basically just it's just a way of saving things, saving data. Data can be of any type. You can save strings, you can save integers, you can save doubles and stuff like that, and even your own created objects if you want. How does everyone feel regarding this topic of arrays?
So it seems to have relatively the same logic as arrays in C++, right?
Yes, it's literally the exact same stuff without having to allocate data, right? This is all, you have to remember that this is, Swift uses Arc. I think it's called Arc. I think that's what the name is. But to allocate data, so automatically even checks for your data. It's called, what is it? Yeah, it should be Arc or something like that. To allocate the data, and then once we're done, it deallocates the data itself. So Swift is in charge of all of that. It's relatively the same logic of C, cleaner way of doing it. How?
Are you able to, let's say you have a array of like 6 integers, are you able to like let's say you want to go to the one on the third?
Yeah.
Are you able to change the value?
Yeah. If you that's a really good question. So basically, okay, so what we can do is I can create an array I'll create integers, right? And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And that itself, right? The compiler knows that it is an array of integers because I used integers here. If I want to change, let's say, this thing, right? So it's so it should be 3 to, let's say you want to use 100, print an array. That should work. It does work. The only way it doesn't work is if you make this a constant. So if you make this so it replaces that number to 100. So 3 to 100 or 4. Sorry. Does that answer your question? If I were to change this to a let, right? If I were to make it a constant, it should throw me an error, right? The compiler itself is going to be like, it's not even before it even compiles. Swift, the IDE will tell me, hey, this is wrong, and it's going to basically suggest that I change it to a var. And in this case, it already changed it. Does that answer your question, Ivan?
Yeah, that answers the question. Thank you.
Yeah, and you don't have to mess with any memory allocation. The cool thing about Swift is that it does all of it for you. And he has his own garbage collection system, which I think is pretty amazing. Okay, so now does everyone else have a question? I also see that Wood Grizzly joined. I believe, how do you feel about arrays, Grizzly? I think Wood Grizzly. I don't know how to say that.
I'm just observing. I have to yeah, I have to take notes. So
Okay, it's fine. How do you feel? Okay, what about you, Rian? Do you feel good?
Yeah, it seems pretty self-explanatory right now, as you can only assign like new numbers or append with just a regular var. So let is
Mm-hmm.
like you can't change it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, so it seems pretty good so far.
Okay. Okay. Um, so now I'll go over loops. The way you loop is a little bit simpler than it is in C++. The way you loop is you do something like this. So let's say we wanted to loop through this. So we say for I for a value, right, in an array, right? So for a value inside of my array, and then this value now is a specific value in it. So an array. I want to do that, and I wanted to print. You should print every single value inside of the array. This is how you do a loop. It's very simple. You don't. The thing about Swift is it doesn't really use the. It used to use the for loop, and I guess this is as close as you get to the for loop in Swift. It's a little bit different than C++. For those who know C++. But this is how you would do a for loop. If you wanted to do, let's say, you can also do a range too. So you can also use a for loop with a range. And this is how you would specify a range. And this would just, this for loop right here just adds number to lecture numbers. And it adds the specific value in this range. So if I were to do for value, I can do it here. 0 to 2, right? So it's less than 3. Now, if I were to print value, right, it's just going to print 0, 1, and 2. How does everyone feel with for loops in Swift? Everyone
Seems
feel good?
seems
Oh,
pretty solid.
okay.
Uh,
And then I have,
Easy to understand since it's pretty much similar to other syntaxes.
yeah, it's very similar to pretty much that's how you iterate through an array. It goes over here. You can also do a lot of times. You can also do 2 different values. You could also do like for value. I don't know if it'll let me in this one, but if I were to do for number and lecture numbers, a lot of times you can also access the index. Should be something like that, I think. The index should be. A lot of times you can also access the index. I don't know why you would want to, but you can also. That's also possible, unless it gives me an error. Okay. And I think I would have to turn it into enumerated. Actually, that should work. Okay, that works. I don't know why it throws me an error. But this also works. You can also access the value and the index at the same time if you want to. It's totally up to you. I won't go over what this thing does because it goes over it bleeds into classes and inheritance and stuff like that. So I don't want to make it too complicated just yet. So all you have to know is just the way to create a for loop is you name the value and you specify a range, right? In this case, Swift considers their type for range is called a collection. So if it's a collection, you'll be able to loop through it. All right, and Ray considers arrays collections. It considers pretty much strings a collection. You could also loop through a string if you want to. I can show the example. But yeah, this is how you would do a loop. Everyone feels good with this, or how does everyone feel with this? Again, there's no memory allocation or anything like that. Do you feel good, Ivan? Finelli, do you both feel good?
Yeah, I feel good.
Okay. What about you, Finelli?
Yeah, I feel good. I'm just watching. It looks
Okay.
pretty similar to C++, so
Yeah. Fun
Yep.
fact about Swift: it's basically built on top of C++. Well, it's C, but C and C++ are basically almost the same. Okay, so now if you want, this one last thing that I was gonna go over. If you want to go over, if you want to delete every single element in the array, right? This is what you do. You can just make an empty array. So let's say if you wanted to make this array empty, you can just do this, and it'll make the array empty. This is how you make the array empty. Single line of code deletes every single value inside of this array. I think this is what goes over here. And this is what goes over modifying an array by indexing, right? You can change the names. You could also add names into an array. Okay, so now that we went over arrays, I'm going to go over functions. Does everyone here have experience with functions? I believe Ivan should be experienced with functions in Rian, and I think Sinelli should be almost. I think you guys all have some level of experience.
Yeah, we've
But
got a bit of it down.
Either way, I'll explain what a function is. A function is using the Swift programming language guide. It's basically a self-contained chunks of code that performs a specific task. That's basically what it is. And this is inside of here is just the piece of this is where the chunk of code goes, right, inside of the function body. The way you declare a function is very similar to C++, or somewhat similar. You use the func keyword, right, and then you name it and you add two parentheses. This basically says, oh, this is a function, right? And inside of the parentheses, you can also add different or you can also add different parameters. And the way you do that is you use an A, you name it, and then you add the type, right? So this is A, is an integer, B is an integer, and this returns an integer. The way you return something in Swift is use the arrow keyword, or I guess I guess it's a keyword. So if I wanted to put function print my name, and then let's say name or type string name, right? Now the way I would call this function is I would just basically type in print my name, and it should pop something like this. And then you just put your name in there. And this should print your name, I believe. Yeah, and it prints Angel. And this is how you would call a function. How does everyone feel good regarding functions? There's a lot of stuff you can do. You can return class, you can return all those sorts of stuff. But for now, just think of you're just returning simple data structures such as integers and booleans and stuff like that.
And you need to have. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you go ahead.
So, when you're calling a function, you need to include the data type in the argument.
Yes. So if you call, you need to include the data type. But if you're using an IDE, it'll automatically do it for you. So it usually a lot of times you put the name, not the data type, right here. When you call
Okay.
it, you put the name, and inside of the where you have the data type, right? It's where you put the
All right, got
value of parameter. I think you can do. What were you gonna say, Ivan? I think you also had a question.
In Swift, do you have to have parameters in order to return, or can you just return without having parameters?
No. You can return without having parameters. So if you wanted to return, get my name, and then I won't do parameters, and I just return a string, right? Let's say I'm gonna return my name as a string. Ian. And I put let name equals and get my name. All right, and I run this. It should say that now holds Rian. So you can do that. You can return without having parameters. Does that answer your question? Do you feel good with this?
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
Okay, and you can also assign the values that you return here to a specific variable, right? So if you were to add two numbers, like here, add a and b, a plus, and then return an integer, you can assign them to specific values. How does everyone feel regarding this?
Pretty good.
This is
Makes sense so far.
Okay. And functions, yeah, you don't have to use return values either. Tuple, I'm not gonna go over yet. And then you can also pass in arrays too. So if you wanted to put my numbers, you can also this is how you would passing an array of integers. Right. That's what in when you call the my numbers, you just ask you to put a bunch of numbers, so you can also passing an array like this. Okay. So now that we're done with functions, so to recap, basically we went over so far we've gone over array and loops, and we went over functions. Before I continue to our demo, does anyone have a question regarding these two things? So any question regarding arrays and loops and functions?
Good so far. Does anyone else have questions?
And also, a quick note is that in C++, you usually have to declare the function prototype and then a definition. In Swift, you don't have to do that. You only you declare the body type, right? You only type in once. You don't have to do the prototype. And you'll see this in action in our demo too. Okay, so I don't think anyone has any other questions. So let me see if any. You can also pass in default parameters too, and there's also a way to pass in default parameters. And the way you could do this is pretty much equals to, and then if I were to do add b, right, and if I don't add, like you see how it only let me do it once, right? You have the ability to be able to either input one parameter or two parameters, right? But let's say we leave a blank. The compiler itself will take this a as a 2, and it will add 2 plus whatever I enter for b, right? So if I add, see, I have access to both. I have access to a and b, and I have access to just b. And this is how you will use the default parameter if you wanted to. Also, this is I won't go over in and out stuff like that. Okay, I think this is a good resource for anyone who wants to get more into Swift. This is where I pretty much take a lot of my examples, and I try to simplify them a bit more. But this is it's actually not that hard to read either. Okay, so I'll go over our demo today. Our goal, what we want to do is we want to build a UI like this, right? So if you want to build a simple game like this with 4 cards that you can just flip. And we want to be able to take account of how many flips we've done, right? And then in further demos, our goal is going to be to make this a game, right? A simple matching game where you have to match 2 cards and then you delete them. But for now, we'll just create something like this. And the way you would do it is you want to open up Xcode, and you want to click on File, New, and then open up a project. Was everyone able to do that?
Yeah, let me try that out right now.
If you open up Xcode and you press File, New, and Project, you should be able to open it. Were you able to do that too, Ivan?
Yeah, and oh yeah, I'm on that page, and then just click on app.
Um, hold on. Let's just wait for Rian to see so
Yeah.
so that he makes it on the same place. Rian, are you here?
Yeah, just give me a few seconds.
1, 2, 3. That's a few seconds.
I count 50 as a few
Um,
seconds. How about that?
okay, it's almost I have seconds right here too. Um,
Okay,
okay,
so the
while we
instructions are
wait,
what?
so you want to click on File, New, and then Project, and then it'll take you to a
File,
page like this
new,
in Project.
project. Okay, got it.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And here you want to click on App, and then here it's going to show you a couple of things. It's going to ask you for a team name, custom identifier, and interface. Just make sure that you have storyboard here, and that you just give the con. I'll call it cont, but normally the name is concentration app. Team, I just have my own team because I play for the Apple subscription thing. And then for organization, you can just give it whatever you want. For now, it's not really important. And you don't need these either. You should be good with either of these. Then you click next, and it'll tell you where you want to save it. I'm gonna save it in my desktop, and you don't need it. And you should show it, and it will just save a folder inside of your desktop like this. Um, was everyone able to do this?
Yeah, so I'm up at that point right now myself. Eddie and
Okay.
Ivan and Sinelli, how you guys doing?
Okay.
I know one of you guys wasn't on board yet.
You said it was for interface. It was storyboard, right?
Yes, and
Oh,
you don't have to check the other stuff. You don't have to check. Make sure they're
okay.
unchecked.
So it says use core data and
Yeah,
include test.
yeah. Just leave those blank.
Oh, okay.
Those are just you just uses some other stuff that you're not gonna be using right now.
Okay.
You know when you guys are in that step.
I'm all good, so just waiting on everyone else.
Okay. And then I believe it is called ARC. This is what it's called. What I was going over. The the how Apple manages memory. It's called the ARC. Automatic reference counting. This basically takes care of all the memory management. It just works. Okay. Let me just waiting on Ivan.
I got it. I got it.
Okay. Okay. So now you should see a view controller. You see a scene delegate, an app delegate, and then a mate storyboard. So what you want to do is you want to choose go up here, and then choose an iPhone 11. And it should show an iPhone 11 here too. Just make sure you're running the same simulator, and then click on run. And it should pop up a simulator like mine. And at the end, it'll just be a blank simulator. I might take some. My computer has a lot of RAM, and pretty fast chip, so it might be a bit slower for you guys. But it's fine if it takes a while.
And it should pop out the simulator app, right?
Yeah, it should pop up this simulator. Should it iPhone 11? I used an iPhone 11. You typically just match the same simulator that I'm using here.
Okay.
Um, let me know when you both have the simulator open.
Yep, I've got the simulator open. The pop out.
Okay, so
How do
you
you
have the
get
pop
to
up.
the simulator? Because on
It
mine
should
it
pop
just
up.
shows Mac, and then that's it.
It should pop up as it on your left on your little bars where you have all your applications. You should be able to find a blue icon with a phone, and it should be called.
Let me check.
And I think the app is literally called Simulator, so
Yeah.
it should be pretty easy to find if it's there. I think you can try screen sharing if you need any help.
Yeah, let me do that. Let me do that.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm sharing it.
Let me see. I don't think you are.
Let me
Okay, now you are. Let me.
where was I?
Doesn't let me
So
look at.
so I'm here, and then I just go up here, and it just says my Mac.
I can't see for some reason your simulator.
Oh, let me
I can't see anything. It's just loading. It's loading.
see.
Let me.
Oh, yeah. No, it shows me. Let me just change the settings because it wouldn't allow that app. Let me give me a quick second.
I can't see for some reason. Any of this.
Let me I have to allow it. Let me just open up my settings.
Okay, it's fine.
Just a few moments of technical difficulty.
Go up on your file where you have file up there on your Mac. In the tab, click on new. Put project. Let's try it again and see if it still gives you the same thing. Go app. Go to app. And next. Let's find a view. Oh, it's because you're in Mac OS. Go previous. That's why. Go to iOS. Where's this iOS right there?
All right.
And go to app. Yeah, there you
No.
go. And then click next and give it a name.
And it's storyboard, right?
Storyboard, yeah. And you have CIS. Okay, good. Oh, yeah, you're good. And then just download it where you want to save it. And click create. And now go on your up there and go put iPhone 11. There you go. And then click run on the button, the start button. The start button on the left side, up top left.
Oh yeah.
Right there. Yeah, click on that, and it should pop up a simulator. It's actually my bad. I didn't specify that we would be doing iOS, but
No, my bad. I didn't even pay attention to what it was. So I don't know if they
and right
did.
now it should be launching a simulator. It's gonna be launching if you looked on your like on your computer. And on the bottom, yeah, right there, it takes a while to load up, but once it loads up, just make sure you don't close it down the first time because that way it doesn't have to relaunch.
Oh, okay,
Redo.
perfect.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, that's good. And while you wait for that, I'll go over how much RAM does your computer have by any chance?
I think it's 8.
Okay, it's fine. Um, okay. Let me know when your thing has booted up, and I'll start with this.
It's on a white. It's just I think it booted up with white.
White. Okay, just white. Okay, that's great. Okay, so now okay, great. So this is where I'll start, Rian. So now I will go over the how to set up the UI. Um, so now what our goal is to get something like this, right? we want to have 4 cards and then 1 label, right? And then when we press a card, we want it to flip, basically, and to show whatever emoji we have there. A cool way to do that is, well, is if you press Command Shift L, right, it should pop up something like this, and we can look for a button. I prefer this one, the first button right here. So if you grab it and you drag it like this, right, and you drag it into your simulator, into this simulator within your main storyboard, you should show something like this. Now, when inside of here, you're able to do various things. You can make it bigger, right? You can make it smaller. But for our purposes, what we want is we want to make it about around. Let's see. Let's make it around.
Angel,
What's up?
what did you use again? What command?
It's Command Shift L, and then you just type in button, and then just drag it in like this.
I see. Okay.
Okay. And then here, you can either manually make it bigger or smaller. What we want, sort of, when I test pasted, is around 82 of width, and let me see, 82 of width and 125 of height. You can either manually do it, or you can just go into this little bar right here and then click on this, and it'll show you put the height. Now, normally you use constraints and stuff like that, but for now I won't go over constraints because there's different ways. Like if I run this, right, my button can go like to it can act very weird when it doesn't have constraints. Constraints are basically you telling it in the simulator where you want, you telling the IDE where you want your button to be located, right, and how to act when you're, when you move sizes and stuff like that. So anyways, I added the button, and then now I'm going to delete the text, right? And then I want to change the background color. I like, let's see, I'll use a background color of yellow. That's fine with you guys. You guys can also use any color you want. Use.
Where did you find the background color?
You
Where'd
can
you
use any color you want.
Yeah, where'd you find the color?
So I click on the button itself. You can also click on the button here, but I clicked on here and I looked for the background color right down here in this navigation. It's also inside of here. Then you can click on. I'm gonna choose like an orange color because that's what I have on the other tutorial. And then now that we have here, I wanna if I press Command C and then Command V, like when you copy and paste, you can also add different types of UI. You can also add, copy and paste your buttons, and that's what I just did. For now, I'm just gonna add 4, and I'm just gonna add them like this, right? Does anyone have any questions regarding this? I was able to. So far by now have 4 buttons, and the way you can check if they're buttons is they should have a B right here. They should have no text, and they should be a background color that you want. Now, there's also a way to change the background color of your view controller, right? And the way you do that, and the view controller is just as white your screen inside of your view. And the way you do that is if you press this view right here, and you click on background color. I'm gonna set it to black, and you should set your background color to black. Now, if we run in our simulator, we should see 4 buttons and then a black view controller.
How do you set the entire background to black?
The way you do it is you click on this view right here.
Okay.
And you click on, and you go to this settings icon, and you click on background color, and then you just look for a black, or you can also press custom and look for a black color here.
Okay.
You can also import your a hack color, which is pretty cool. That's what
All
I
right.
mainly use.
Also,
So now,
did
oh,
you
what?
did you keep the button text?
No, I deleted the button text. I
Okay.
made it. I deleted the button text. You can just drag this in, and it usually you delete the button text.
Okay. Got it.
Um, let me speaking about. All right. So now we have those things right there. Let me see if I. Let me see if I'm missing anything. Okay. Um. So now if we go ahead, that's great. And then now we have this set up. All we need is the label. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right here it shows me a label, but you can also type in look for a label by typing label. You can just drag it in here, and I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna increase the font to around 40 pixels. And the way I do this is I click on the label. You can either select it here, or you can select it inside of your storyboard, and you increase the font to around 40. Or you can just type it individually, right, manually. Would have been a lot easier. And you can change the color of that. I'm gonna change it to a yellow too. I'll just copy the same yellow. And I'm gonna call it flips. And you can change the text by double clicking this, or you can change it here. And I'm gonna change the alignment for it to be centered because I want it to be centered. And I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger because we want to add text to this, right? We want it to look something like flips and then 07 or 08, right? We want it to have enough space so that the entire text fits. And I made this a little bit bigger, and I just center it.
How'd you add the flips again? Sorry, I didn't pay attention to that part.
So what I did is I pressed Command Shift L, and I typed in
okay.
label,
Label. All right.
and I just dragged it in. And then once I dragged it in, I placed it where I wanted it to be. And then what I did is I changed the background color to the same background color that I used for the buttons, and I changed the text to flips. And I centered and for the alignment, I centered it. So I use this one right here.
How did you change the box and the text size?
What do you mean? Oh, this?
Yeah.
So for the text size, I went to font, and I clicked on this little T, and I changed the font to 40 pixels
Ah,
or
okay.
40 points. I think iOS uses points. It's 40 points. And you can also change. If you want to change your font, you can also change it. But I left it the same.
How do I change the size of the
Um,
label box?
what?
How do I change the
Oh, this
size?
I
Yeah.
so the way I did is I just dragged this like that.
Ah, okay.
You click on I just dragged it. Later on, I'm gonna be using this. I think after this lecture, I think after next lecture, I'll stop using this entirely. We'll do it programmatically, everything, and I'll use constraints for it. But this is just to introduce you to how things work in iOS. And just so you know, this little arrow right here specifies that this storyboard, that this view controller is the entry point of our program. And that's what it means. If you were wondering what this, if one day you mess up and you delete this, right? You can always go to your view controller and then type in this. So if we were to mess up, right, and delete it, you can just go to its initial view controller and pop up the arrow right there. So now that we have our UI ready, right? We want to run it, and now we see our flips and we see our buttons, right? So now we can create the logic for our program. Right? So now what we want to do is, do you both are you both at this step? Do you both have the four buttons and the label?
Yeah, I've got the 4 buttons label.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing is, how do I like? How would I run it so it could go to my simulator?
What you do is you can press Command R,
Command
or
R.
you can Command R, and it's a quick little command to run your simulator. and then it should just run it, and it should pop up your simulator like this. Or you can always just press this button right here, this little star button. Either one, they both do the same thing.
So, as of right now, we don't have any code to accompany all of our visuals, so it's just going to show us all the images.
Yeah, it should show you just all the images.
Okay,
And show you the 4 buttons and then the label.
got it. Perfect.
So now, well, our next part is we're gonna add some code and we're gonna add some logic to it. This will be fast. It's actually shouldn't be that bad. Now what we want to do is you want to press this button right here. So when I press, and it should make the simulator a little bit bigger. Not similar to the screen, so it's just do a little split screen. And what you want to do is you want to go to view controller, and you're going to go to my view first controller, or you want to go to this part, sorry. And you want to look for your view controller. And it should pop up something like this. In one side, you should have your storyboard, and in the other side, you should have your code, your view controller code.
How'd you get the code open? Is that main?
So what I did is I started main, and I pressed this button right here, and it popped up, and it split it up, right? And what I did is I clicked on the name of my app, and I looked for view controller, and then now I have a split screen of my view controller and my my code and
Okay.
my main storyboard. Sorry.
Perfect. Got it. Thank you.
Do you both have this? Do you both feel comfortable?
I'm resizing it right now.
Okay.
The code is under what tab?
View controller. You should have it. It's gonna be called just view controller, like right there.
Okay, so concentration app and view controller. Okay.
Yeah, if you click, yeah, and it should pop something like this.
And then how do I get the simulator on the left side?
On the left side, if you click on the left side, and then it should show up. If you click on this and you click on main and then main.base, it should take you here.
Oh, got it. All right, perfect.
Yeah. So now what we want to do is 2 things, right? We want to add our label for a simulator, a variable for our label, and we want our four buttons, right? 4 variables for our buttons, and then we want to make each button, like when you press a button, right? You want to make it seem like it's like a touch functionality, right? So wait, just before I move on, Ivan, are you with this step also? All right, move on.
For me, I have it on the. How'd you get the?
It doesn't matter if it's on the
left-hand
left or
side.
right side. If it's on the left side, it should work a similar way, the same way. If you have the code on this side and the storyboard on this side, it's fine. But do you see something like this?
No, on mine, I just see on the left hand side. I see the like how you have it, but on the right hand side, how do I get the code editor area?
Okay, so if you click on the name of your app, and you click on this, the folder, and you click on view controller, it should take you here.
Oh, let me try it.
Then the other parts are just 2, basically like not that many lines. It's like 20 lines of code.
My simulator interface is really small. How do I make more space for it?
You can make it bigger. You can if you go to here, just make it bigger or make it smaller.
I mean for the in the Xcode app.
Oh, you can if you have a mouse or a touchpad, you can zoom in.
So I was able to zoom in and out, but like the tab that I have open for it is also just really like it's half the size of yours right now.
You can also my screen's pretty big also, by the way.
That's true.
You can also press command 0 to close the left tab bar, and that should help a little bit.
Ooh,
Press
got
command
it.
0.
Yep.
Yeah. And if you want to close this thing right here, you can also close it by pressing command option 0.
I have this really small tab on the right side of the code that shows me the overview of the code. No, it's on the right side. Right side of the code. It's not showing on your screen, but there's like this little preview that shows me of all my code.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's fine. I have it. I think I disabled it on mine.
How do I get rid of that?
That should be fine. I can show you later on after.
Okay.
But okay, so now that we're here, what you want to do is you want to have access to these four properties, right? So what you want to do is you want to press Control, right? It should give you something like this if you press Control and you drag it to insert, and let's call it card button. And you want to make sure that it says outlet on the top too. The type of connection you want to specify that it's an outlet. Storage, just make sure it's weak, and you want to connect. Right, and you see something like this. Now, if you highlight this little button right here, to show you that you have a connection to this card, right? Now after you do that, you want to make this a collection, right? You want to store all of your buttons inside of this, right? So what you can do is if you drag this and you drag it to this button right there, and you drag it to this button right here, and you drag it to this button right here. Shoot, wait, hold on. Actually, it doesn't. I don't know if does it work. It should work. Okay, it does. Should actually. Um, the way you know if they're connected is if you click on this, should show. Actually, it may have not triggered it. Actually, I may have messed up. Actually, so if you delete that and you just make sure if you delete it, and you go up here and just delete any outlet here. Make sure that you don't have anything. Just make sure you delete. So delete that line of code that I made, and then go to every single one of your buttons, and then check. Make sure that there's no outlet right here. I actually messed up.
I
What you want to do now?
I just
If
deleted
there
my
is an
line of
outlet,
code, but
yeah.
I just deleted the line of code, but the line where it showed up is still showing a button.
You can go to press one of your buttons, and then go to this thing right here on the right side, and then delete it. It should be referencing outlets, and then just click on that referencing outlet and delete it. And then go to every single one of your buttons and check if you have that. And they should all look like this. They should all be empty.
And which one am I checking for the buttons?
You check by if you click on this thing right
Oh,
here.
wait, I
And you
found
go
it.
all the way to the end. Yeah, if you go all the way to the end, and if you click on a button, click on every single one of your buttons, and then make sure that they all look empty.
Yeah, just got it. I removed all the
Okay.
connections.
So now what you want to do is do that again, action, and you want to make sure that it's an outlet collection. Sorry, and an outlet collection is just basically an array of buttons, and that's what you want. And we want to call it card buttons, right? And then now you can do this thing where you can add all your little buttons. And then now if you go here, mine says but, but because it's short for button for some reason. But if you highlight it, they should all be highlighted.
So what did you do differently this time?
I created I did sorry. I did this. I made it a collection instead of an outlet.
Outlet
An
collection.
outlet and then the type is UI button and just gave it a name of card buttons. Now if I run this, if I did it correctly and if I don't have any weird connections, it should run normally without any errors. If you have an error, most likely if you have an error, it's because you may have you may have left the connection that we previously made, and sometimes it gives you a weird error. But if you don't have if you ran it and you don't have an error, you're good. So now that we did that, we what we also want to do is we also want to add our label. So we want to add it like this, and we want to make that an outlet, no outlet collection. And we want to call that, let's see what we should, a flip count label. Flip count label. It's going to be of type UI label. Storage is weak. And now we should have this. So now we have a connection for our card buttons, and we have a connection for our flip count button. Now that we have this, we need one more thing actually.
What settings did you use for the flips connection?
What for the flip count label, I clicked on this label right here, and then I dragged it here, and I pressed outlet.
Okay, so outlet is the only one.
Yeah, and then UI label, and UI label is the only one, and storage is weak.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So now that we're here, how do you feel, Ivan? You have all of the. Is your code running good without any errors?
How'd you get? You know when you click on your like when you were doing the squares, when you click on them, and how'd you get the arrow to come out?
This
Some-
arrow right here. Oh, it's not
No.
coming out. So you click on your view controller, and then you go to this thing right here, and you go to the settings on your view controller, and you click on this button right here called is initial view controller.
All right, let me try it.
And that should work. And if you run it, it should run.
Okay,
Were you? Huh?
so I click on the right hand side. How do you? Sorry, I didn't get that. I tried to get that part. So you said you clicked on the square.
So I clicked on this view controller right here. On
View
this.
controller. All right.
Yeah. I click on this, and then I open this tab bar right here, and then it shows me a very like different ones. And I click on this settings, and I click on is initial view controller.
Oh, okay.
Rian, were you able to compile your code? It runs, right?
Compile. I have not tried that yet. Let me do it now.
Run it by Command R.
Okay. And does it load up my simulator automatically? Yeah. Okay. It did.
Yeah. And if you have no errors, you should be spot on. You should
Yeah.
be
It only shows the visuals right now. There's nothing active, right?
yeah. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
It's because sometimes if you have like I'll demonstrate it. I can demonstrate an error later. I can demonstrate it right now. So if I were to do this, it'll give you an error, right? And then this error, don't try this. I'm just showing you guys as an example. This error right here is basically the same. The storyboard is like, hey, I'm looking for a connection, right? But you don't have the connection anymore, right? So a lot of times you have to, if you get that error, it's called like SIGBART, something like that. Very famous error. I used to get it a lot. What you have to do is just go here and delete it if you ever get that error. Anyways, I run my code now to compile the error. Okay. So now over here we have our flip count label, our car button. Now what we want to do is when we press one of our buttons, right? We want to be able to like call a function when we call it, right? And there's a quick way to do this is if you press Control on one of the cards and you click on Action, right? And then we can call this touch card. Yeah, click on so if you do the same thing that you did before, right? If you drag this control and then drag, and you click on action instead of for the connection, make it an action, and then view controller is fine, and then let's call it touch card, and then make it UI button touch up inside, and then connect, right? Now this basically has a reference to that. Now what you can do is you can do the same thing that we did for car buttons, and then make sure that all of these have a connection, right? And then no, not a collection. It's an action, but they should all be connected. All the buttons are going to be connected to this action. So when we call this, when we press a button, and I can when we press any one of our buttons, right? It's gonna basically call that function. It's gonna say, hey, we have this function. Okay, so now that you have that, you both should be caught up to this part. We have all of our UI set up. We don't need to do any connections. So what we can do is we can close this down and we can just go to our view controller.
What are we closing out?
You can close out that one tab that you had open. Any one of the tabs. You know how you had this? You can close this one down and just to have one. And then now you can just go to your view controller and we're just gonna code.
Okay.
So now that we're here, right? Your view controller. Our main goal should be to when we click on one of these cards, we want it to change the card to act sort of as a flip. So what I'm gonna do is I want it. Let's see, what do we want to show? We wanted to show emojis, right? So I'm going to show these emojis right here, and I created an array of strings, and it's gonna show one of these emojis whenever we click on this card. All right.
Can you put that in chat?
Put this on the voice. I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
put this on the chat.
Okay.
For some reason it mixes. I don't know if it will change them when you guys copy them, but okay. So now what we can do, right, is we're gonna create a function that does that. We can call it function called flip card with emoji. Emoji of type string on button. Now notice how I give it like two names, right? In Swift, it is if in Swift you want to make your functions sound basically like plain English. So the way you would make it like read this is flip card with emoji on button, right? And usually when we call this function, right, it just that's how it's gonna be. Look, we create a function like this. Does everyone is everyone here so far? Ian, are you here too?
I just copied the text. I have to still make the array.
Okay.
How's everyone else doing?
I think everyone. Think. Okay. So now that we flipped our card, right? What we want to do is we want to check. Okay, if button that current title. Oh sure. Oh sure. Call it button. If button that current title equals emoji, you want to do these two things right here. You want to change set title button that set title, make it empty for normal, and you want to make button background equal to this color. You can get a color snippet by typing color literal, and it should let you put a color snippet. Else, right? You want to set the title to an emoji and set the background color to white. And this basically what it's doing is basically checking the current title. If the current title is the emoji, you want to set the title to empty, right? And then set the background color to orange. And if there is no emoji, right, you want to add the emoji and set the background color to white. Yeah, I used. Yeah, there's another way of doing it. It's another way of specifying an array, by the way. Okay. So now I have flip card. We want to do in our touch card, right? Is we want to increase our flip count. So we want to do increase our what I do is increase our flip count label by 1. Let me see, flip count or. Are you here already, Rian? Are you done with this code right here?
I have not. I need to still write out that function. That's a really long function, so it'll take me a bit.
Okay, it's fine. I think I'll continue on, and then if you have any questions,
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So now what we want to do is we have our flip card, right? And we can test this by checking touching every time if let card number equals card buttons dot index of sender So now here, what I'm doing in this touch card is every time we click on a button, it calls this function, and what we do here is we check for the end where we check where this the index of the card button, right? So this is index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, right? We get the index of a specific button, right? So in this case, from the card buttons, right, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you press this 0, right, we get the index, which is going to be the of the button, right? So if you click on this, it's going to give us 0. And we pass that index, right? We get that index right here. Or yeah, it gives us our card number, and then we just use that card number to get the specific emoji. And if I run it, right, it should show this right here. Were you able to get this, Rian?
I'm not gonna lie, you're kind of leaving me in the dust. I'm really
Oh, no, it's fine. No,
dragging.
it's fine. I just continued on just for the recording. That's why.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it's not so that it's not too long.
I'm just catching up with your code, so you can keep going.
Yeah, I'll continue on later on, so that way we don't make the lecture recording too long.
Yeah.
So now once I have the touch card, right? Now our last step is to keep track of every time we press on a card, right? We want to increment this flips every time we click on a card. And the way we do this is we create a variable called flip count of type int and set it to 0. That's where it's going to start. All right. And we call this get set method on it. Basically, what this does is every time this flip count is set, is going to get a flip count label, that text, and it's going to set it equal to flips count. And to flips and count. And now every time, let's see if we press touch card, flip count. No, there we go. It should work, right? And this get set function right here, or code right here, what it does is it checks, like every time you press on, you change the value of this, of this label right here, it's gonna change the value of our label or of our variable. Sorry.
Is that whole thing right there? That's a function, or what is that?
It's basically a variable, but in Swift you're able to basically add checkers to see when you like change a variable. So every time we change this variable right here, we also change our label, the text of our label. And I'll explain to you in a bit. This is just for the recording, so that it's not too long.
Yeah.
And to recap, we did two important things in this project. We created this flip card, which is the logic of our program, to basically change the title and set it to orange and empty, right, when we click on it. And we also set the title to an emoji when we click on it too. So those are two things we're doing when we flip a card. We get rid of the text and we set it to orange, and we set it to an emoji, and we set it to white. In our touch card, right, every time we touch a card, right, we're checking first if, hey, does the index of that card exist, right, of this button exist? If it exists, we're gonna get that card number, right? And if we print, and then I'm printing here I can print the card number, right? So if we click on this card right here, it's gonna print index 0, index 1, index 2, and index 3, right? And using this, we call the flip card method, right? Which is we put as a parameter, we pass in our emoji choices, and we get the card number, right? Using the card number. So in this case, we pressed 0. We're gonna pass an emoji choices 0, which is gonna be the ghost, and then we're gonna pass in our button. right? If we pass in our button, we have access to all those properties that a button holds. And here we just change the title of the button, and we change the background of the button. And then again, if you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Discord. If you have any questions regarding this demo. And again, thanks again for watching this this workshop. And then you can cut it there, Rian.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you need help on? What do you need help on, Rian? I
I
just
was
wanted to.
I was gonna real quick conclude it with so that was today's workshop, iOS workshop, at 2 to 3 p.m. Well, 3:25. The next
Mhm.
workshops will be next week. Hardware workshop will be on Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. iOS will be at the same time as well, 2 to 3 p.m. My C++ workshop will not be on Saturday. It will be either before that or I might have to reschedule this week because I am in fact going camping. So one time this week. But yeah, please be tuned for the next hardware and iOS workshop. C++ workshop might be postponed for the next week. So thank you
Okay.
guys and see you next time.
Okay.